This is the NEAR Validator AMA. I'm Stefano, product manager at NEAR. I coordinate the Validators program. I'm running the stake course. And today we have the great opportunity to have Anais, who's coordinating our community, and he coordinated this AMA. And then we have Eugene and Bowen, who are the first who built the staking pool and the pool factory, and Bowen, who's essentially running the core, the protocol, and I think that all of you know him because he's spending a lot of time with us on the technical channel of the new protocol. So I think that we can, at a high level, jump in. I think I got some questions for Eugene. I will kick off the AMA myself, and then I will have community. You can write in the chat, or if the question and answer is quite persistent and interactive, we can even give you voice. We will just enable you down. So my question for Eugene is about the staking pool. And I would like to know what happens when I unstake funds from a staking pool to the total stake of the validator.
What do you mean to the total?
So let's say that I am a validator. I got 100,000 NEAR tokens delegated to my pool, and one of my delegators right now removes 10,000 tokens. So NEAR call, and then there is unstake and removes 10,000 tokens. So how this is managed by the pool, and how the protocol understands that.
Sure. So what pool does internally, it maintains the total balance of stake tokens, and this is just the sum of all rewards accumulated by the staking pool and all stake tokens by delegators. So if someone unstakes 10,000 tokens, then the total amount of stake tokens decreases by 10,000. And after this, the pool issues a new promise to stake the new amount, which is total minus 10,000, and remembers internally who did this action and accounts when it was done and which epoch. So you, as a delegator, will remember at which epoch this action happened in order to release the lock tokens 4 epochs later. And for the staking pool, it will just receive a new staking action with the total amount decreased by 10,000.
So just to be sure, if I unstake now, the pool itself will have 10,000 less tokens for their validator. And so there will be a new promise that will be issued right in the moment that I unstake.
Yes, so the promise arrives the next block, and it will set the new amount from the staking pool account to be 10,000 less.
Okay, so we got 2 questions, and it's, for me, super cool. Thank you, Eugene. I think it's super clear. Anais, I think we already have 2 questions, so
should we go ahead and read it?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay. So the first ones are from Henry, and he actually posted several ones. The first one is, when will contract decoding be available?
Okay, I'm not quite sure, but I think what he means is if you have a contract that is in binary format, then maybe you want to decode it to be able to read it. If this is the case, it's a complicated problem because it's similar to like disassembling the contract. The best way to address this would be, let's say we have a deterministic compilation, which means if you have a contract code and you compile it, you always result in the same binary. We have some effort to do this. One of them is to compile them in predeterministic Docker environment, and that's supposed to always produce the same contract binary. So you fix the compiler version, WebAssembly version, and Docker fixes the OS version and other requirements. And then if it produces the same binary all the time, then you can hash this binary and compare the hash to what is deployed. And that way you know that the deployed binary is exactly the same as the original code. And this is how we intend to solve problem where we want to say, yes, this hash code is okay and can be deployed, or this is unknown code, we don't know what's going on.
Okay,
Any other ideas how to interpret decoding?
Maybe Henry, if you want to clarify. Henry wrote in the chat, with this in mind, will the contracts be updated to be able to see the list of validators and their stake?
Yeah, that's a good question. We can do this type of stuff. It might require small modification to the contract, because right now the way we store validators, we don't store the account ID, we only store the hash of the account ID to improve the performance. But it's totally possible to iterate over the list of validators if needed, and as a get method return all of them. I think it's a good thing to add to a common pool.
Same with delegators, that you can iterate for them?
Yeah, this is for delegators.
Yeah, okay. The next one is, let's take the next one, Ernesto. Thank you for hosting this. Can you share the next steps in the validator program? And I think that answers also then the question by Henry, what's the top of the priority list right now?
Yeah, so I think I can jump in with this. Right now, the top of the priority is to have the first validators join testnet and soon join mainnet. So we don't have a clear timing yet, but we want to have more validators running on mainnet, because now is POA, which is proof of authority. The process that you cannot see that we're putting together is more related to security. So on testnet, we will run emergency updates, and we will mostly coordinate around using different builds of near core that will simulate the adoption of a security patch, and being able to deploy that to 66% of the consensus, and then merge these modifications to the stable branch and have other nodes running. So the main priority now is have a secure set of processes that make near more secure, more safe. So this is the high level goal. Now, connected with this, there is a new challenge that is coming. I'm working on it these days. It's more complicated than usual for me, because I'm not an expert, but in general, is a DevOps and CI/CD type of challenge. So what I will propose to the community is to have a pipeline of to build the artifact, test the artifact with some basic tools that you have to build or you can use from others, and then deploy the node to Betanet, and then this will be also true for testnet. In this area, we will important innovation in terms of how you can upgrade the node. Bowen can explain more details, but in general, we will make possible to have 2 different releases of near core run together on the same network. So you will not have any more to wake up like on Monday or Tuesday in the early morning and update the node with everyone else if there is update, but you will be free to update that within a specific interval of time. I think that Bowen, you can explain better than me how this is going to work. And then I'm also happy to elaborate more about the upcoming challenge on the pipeline.
Sure, yeah. So basically, like our upgradability enforces backward compatibility on the protocol level. So that means, you know, a protocol version must be backward compatible with the last protocol version. I mean, it can be also compatible with some previous protocol version, but that's not required. And, you know, we might deprecate into a old protocol version in 2 versions. But yeah, since it's backward compatible, like that means, you know, if there's a change, you know, if there's a new protocol version coming out, and you don't have to, we don't have to ask everyone to update at the same time, because that will actually cause the network to stall, because people will probably stop their node and start with new binary. So people can just take their time and, you know, do whatever they need to verify the new release, the validity, and also that it doesn't have, you know, security vulnerabilities. You know, people can run whatever local tests they want, you know, spin up clusters to do like load testing, whatever they want. And then after that, if they're comfortable with the new protocol version, then they stop, they update the node binary to the new protocol version.
Cool. So yeah, I think that this is pretty good news for everyone who's trying to, you know, update the nodes. And we will use this, you know, new logic also to introduce the simulation of alternative builds that are essentially fixing, you know, some potential security vulnerabilities. So this is one of the key priorities of what we want to achieve in order to run testnet. So I don't know. I think we can go on. Maybe I can elaborate more because I think Bowen explained also all the technical aspects of what I wanted to say.
If there's anything unclear, you can ask a question. Cool. So there are several questions on Mainnet. So is it already possible to run a node on Mainnet? And I think that also refers to the confirmed Mainnet launch in terms of when do external validators will start using Mainnet.
I suppose Bowen can provide us the situation of Mainnet right now.
Yeah, so I guess it's Adrian's question, right? So yeah, it's right now we're still running POA, and you know, whether you know, we can onboard validators from Mainnet, that's I guess both, you know, the necessary stuff we need to do, you know, around both the technical side and also the logistical side. And probably I would say at this point it's more like we need to figure out some logistics. You know, we need to make sure that validators are actually ready to run on Mainnet. You know, get they have all this stuff set up, and you know, we can communicate. We have like channels to communicate to them in case of like emergency, and also I guess another aspect is that we need to have the distribution ready, right? You know, in order to run Mainnet, you need to have a staking pool, and that, you know, that all that stuff needs to be coordinated, and probably there's also some legal aspect of it. Yeah, I think maybe Stefano can also elaborate on the more like the logistical side of it.
Yes. So so as I explained, I think that what we want to have is a set of tools to have a really good coordination among validators regarding updating the node, testing new releases, and applying zero-day, you know, patching zero-day exploits. These three aspects are again, yes, as Bowen mentioned, more a problem of logistics and testing. So we want to have some, I would say, muscular memory of applying this type of patches and doing certain type of operations before jumping right in on mainnet. We will use testnet for this higher level of complication in terms of coordination and activities. And also testnet will be used to simulate what is going to happen on mainnet. Imagine that mainnet will be mainnet restricted. So we will have a whitelist of smart contract, and we will not enable yet the transmission of funds. So it will not be possible to have wallets sending tokens. This is already explained in the roadmap that Ilya wrote about 4 weeks ago on the roadmap to mainnet and beyond of Near. And I'll be happy to post a link. Essentially, the idea is to have a restricted mainnet run by validators, but it will be the validators who will decide when the network is ready. So there will be also a governance moment where we will decide when we can completely unlock the protocol and have anyone moving funds and joining the validators set. So it's rather a logistic type of decision and of coordination. So given this, yeah, thank you, Anais. You can find the link in the bottom right corner if you're using Zoom application. So our goal is really now to have coordination among the community and make it easier. In this way, we can be sure that even if the protocol is decentralized, there is a lower risk that it stops, or certain updates are not promptly applied.
Awesome. So the next question is by Hendrik. You can post questions either down in the Q&A section if you are on desktop, or you can post them in the chat. Either way works. So Hendrik is asking, how's the validator node currently keeping track of consensus signing history in order to prevent accidental equivocation, for example, in case of a state corruption which rolls the chain back a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how that corruption happened, right? If it's just like, for example, a shard is corrupted. I mean, like if the case of a shard being corrupted is not really a concern right now, because we only have one shard, and in that case, unless the majority of the of the node colludes, and we would not have a like corruption. But in the general case, in the general sharded case, if a shard is corrupted, then the idea is that we will have this role called fisherman, whose purpose is solely for tracking some shards, or like all the shards, and make sure that there is no invalid state transition that's happening. And if there is, we will send a challenge to the network, and then we will slash the validators who committed the invalid state transition. Well, I guess the question is probably also asking, how is that how are we keeping track of the consensus signing history? Well, I guess I would just interpret that to mean like, how do we know that the state is valid? So we know that because the chunk producers would sign the chunk header, which contains the state root. And since they're signing that, it means that they attest to the validity of the state root. And if that's invalid, they'll be slashed.
Okay, there's one more question that we have. There's one more that just came. So the next one is, when do you anticipate more validators going to Betanet? Stefano?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question, because I'm trying to find it.
So it's from Henry. It's right at the top. When do you anticipate more validators?
That's one of our biggest challenges since the beginning. we weren't honestly expecting this large interest for Near to run a node. So we have two actions that are happening right now. One is to accelerate the schedule of having more validators moving from Betanet to testnet. We would like to have at least 30 of them, 30. I would say within 2 weeks. That's my optimistic goal. So having testnet being run by more validators than today. And the second action, and this is what Henry is doing with the support of Bowen and Ilya, we launched a GuildNet, which is a network that is completely run by the community, and there is no specific interaction of Near protocol in running these nodes and keeping the service running. Now, this initiative is moving now its first steps. Henry is doing an amazing job in keeping the nodes running and experimenting also with a multi-sharded setup. So this means that we will have 100 more seats on this new network, and I will keep an eye on GuildNet as well, and I will essentially promote users both that are coming from Betanet and testnet, which are doing pretty well into from Betanet and GuildNet into testnet. So essentially GuildNet is now able to provide 100 more seats to validators. And if there are validators which are struggling with the stake, or they cannot really get a seat on testnet, on Betanet, because there are too many other validators with a lot of tokens, they can essentially join GuildNet and set up their nodes and run their nodes there. So in this way, I suppose that we will be able to have a sufficient number of seats available for all the validators to run in the stake wars. Right now that we are talking, just to give you a number, we have Betanet and another 70 non-validating nodes. So, and given that the telemetry of the Explorer is under improvement, we expect to have even a bigger number of nodes that are not really, that want to be validators, but they cannot because they don't have enough stake. So the goal here is to give a chance to everyone, even if you join late, and to have you guys able to run a node and become validators, even if you don't have enough tokens. I would add a few words at the end of my explanation. Mainnet will be like Betanet. So on Mainnet, we expect that there will be a permanent stake wars, because we will have more validators than available space, at least in the initial phase. We have a new way to assign seats to validators on Near, but this version will come way in the future. So maybe Bowen, if you want to elaborate how we plan to improve the protocol from this point of view, could be interesting.
Yeah, so for the new selection, block producer selection method that Stefano mentioned, yes, we will address this problem where right now, if validator have a lot of stake, they take a lot of seats, and that can be suboptimal for the decentralization of the system, because people with smaller stake might not be able to join because of how the selection, how we calculate the threshold, and the large whales have a heavy influence on the threshold. So we will change it to basically just order the size of the stake from top to bottom, and then we select the top 100 or whatever number we decide. So that will be able. So for example, on Betanet right now we have close to 100, right? But some people take more than one seat, and then that sort of artificially limits the number of validators we can have to a smaller number. So yeah, we will improve on that, and hopefully we can actually reach the theoretical limit when that is done.
Should we go to the next question? Does testnet currently have fishermen enabled, and what kind of rewards can they get?
We don't have fishermen enabled on any network right now. The reason is that, wait, Eugene, you're going to answer the question live. What? No? Okay. Yeah, so it's not enabled on any network because it's not needed in a single sharded system, because everyone validates the same shard, and unless the majority of the people collude, there's not a chance for shards to be corrupted. So we don't need fishermen for now. And as to the reward they get, fishermen do not get any reward. Their existence is purely voluntary. And you might ask, why do they even exist? Or like, why are people motivated to become fishermen? The answer is that there are people who are interested in the well-being of the network in general, and they are willing to spend money and time and effort to make sure that the network is healthy and fully functional, and that the sort of perspective gain of that is outweighs the amount of the amount of like money or whatever and resources they put into fishermen.
There's a follow-up question by Vadim. What is the flag F on the testnet then? Is it not for fishermen?
It is for fishermen. It should be disabled now, unless I missed something. Are you like currently a fisherman on testnet? It's possible that we forgot to turn it off. But yeah, we will not have fishermen like for the time being. I see. Maybe we forgot to like disable it. But I think on mainnet and betanet they're disabled. Yeah, I can double check.
Okay. And then there are two questions by CloudPost. The first part, or like one question in 2 parts. The first part is, what is your opinion about centralized server hosting, cloud hosting, Google, Amazon, Hudson, etc., used for validators? And then the second part is, do you plan to provide bonuses for validators having their own dedicated servers hosted in local high-quality data centers? And in brackets, few crypto projects do that.
So, well, I can give the obvious answer, right? We've seen in the past data centers going offline and entire applications being not reachable because of this failure. So we all know that running a node in some cloud data center is essentially a single point of failure, or at least is a point of failure, and has also implications in the decentralization of the entire infrastructure, because those providers could apply some level of censorship of the nodes that are running a specific network. I would say that most of the validators, professional validators in the space, are applying measures to solve this problem, and they're running their nodes in different data centers, or they're applying some mitigations to this problem. I don't have a personal aversion to running nodes on cloud services, but I understand that running hardware in local data centers could be less risky in terms of censorship. In terms of incentives, we don't plan to give any incentive. That would have some sort of a bias in the network. But what we see is the opportunity to educate our delegators, to delegate our token holders, and suggest them to choose or to think about how the infrastructure of these validators is running, and if they're using their own hardware, the local providers, instead of using the typical large cloud providers, and deciding if delegating tokens to this type of validators is worth a potentially additional fees, or is worth potential I would say lower amount of stake or lower, a smaller part of the seats that this validator has. So in general, what I see right now is that our challenge is to educate delegators, and is to educate the ecosystem of token holders in a way that they understand how important it is to have their stake in a decentralized ecosystem. And this is something that we can do from the blog, we can do from the communication aspect of Near protocol. I don't see the need to give incentives to essentially drag validators and have some physical hardware where they are, because in the end, there is also the risk that it could be less secure if it's not properly configured, or if it's not really in a secure data center. And it's hard at that point to evaluate that if you are just a delegator. By the way, this is a super interesting debate that I'm happy to, do some back and forth.
Somebody has some comments, questions. This is the last question that got asked. So if you have any question, please post them in the chat or in the Q&A section.
Also, about the decentralization of the hosting, it would be super interesting if we have guides to deploy near nodes on different type of cloud providers, servers, VPS software, like everywhere. That will help with, so we can provide incentive at least for writing such guides and like providing the best stuff. Not necessary for running the actual validators in a given data center, because we cannot figure out whether it's behind VPN on some local data center while you're running it on Google Cloud.
You actually did a spoiler for my upcoming challenge, because the pipeline, as we know, is deployment, and we all know that different cloud providers have slightly different tools to create servers. So, for example, the Amazon CLI is different from the GCP CLI. And so this is exactly the type of guide that we will give incentives to write and to receive tokens for that. So we have bounties as usual.
Maybe it's worth mentioning the move to the portal for validators for the challenges.
Please.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go. It's all yours.
Okay. Yeah. So we have started a month ago to let's say accommodate contributors, technical and non-technical, on our portal. It's portal.near.org. And are now moving also all validators to the portal. And the platform basically is like our own private Facebook of some sorts. So the profiles that you have there, the content that you generate there, is all on one platform that is not owned by Facebook. And the main benefit of this platform is that you have, within the profile, you have a section of virtual credits, and those are basically points that later will be able to translate into actual rewards, into tokens, etc., depending on the programs, depending on the challenges, depending on the bounties, but will be tracked there. And with them changing to their new version, we will be able to integrate the new blockchain with that platform as well. So it's basically, instead of us keeping track of rewards within a spreadsheet or somewhere else and communicating that with individuals with direct communication channels, we have instead profiles where you can see the number of points that you have gathered. We can, like, if you have any questions, please post them, please ask us. You can also post them on the portal. If you're not there, there's a sign up form on the 4th validated challenge, right? And once you sign up, we will add you to the portal. Right now, you can view the content that's public if you go to portal.near.org, but not the content that's within the validator group. So the content that's within the validator group, that is private to validators on the group. And also the points that you qualified for is only visible for you, but not for, and for the admins, but not for anybody else. So other validators can't see the number of points that you qualified for. Only you can do that. Anything that I forgot?
So yeah, type HTTPS, HTTPS portal.near.org, and you can see the platform already live.
Okay, Henry just mentioned that if you follow somebody, you can see their points. We're probably going to turn it off. Yeah, wasn't aware of that. They are, yeah, it's still in development. So if you find anything that doesn't seem right, please report it so we can report it as well and get the developers to fix it. Yeah, so you're not supposed to see each other, or like ideally, I mean, it's not a big deal to see each other's points, but some people might not want that. So. Any other questions? Now would be the time to ask. Stefano, do you have any questions?
Well, rather than a question, I would say that 6 weeks ago, we promised 500 tokens for all the validators who were running the update, and this update never happened. So we will use the portal to distribute those tokens. So it's important that all validators actually join the portal, because that will begin the process of knowing you and bringing this to accomplishment. So a promise is a promise, and I'm happy to contribute to all of you guys that spend time running nodes. But we need to go through the portal.
Maybe one more thing to mention, if you're a developer or you're interested in bounties, we have all of our bounties listed in the bounties repository on GitHub. So check those out. And also you can, if you have anything that you would like to see, you can post bounties there as well as an issue. Like if you want to see anything within the Near ecosystem. I think you're muted, Stefano, right now. You're muted if you talk.
Yeah, I was saying that I can share my screen for a second. Is in Near, right? I will try to share. Suppose that people can see my screen now. Can you see it? Suppose so. Okay, guide me. Where are the bounties? Here we go. These are the bounties. So github.com/near/bounties, and you have some initial work. We are creating a space where you can find opportunities to receive bounties. Okay, so this is another interesting question. I read it live, sorry, Anais. So developing WordChess bot in different languages will double reward. This is a difficult answer. I mean, I think so. I would be happy to see the bot in a different language, but I suppose that rather than having a different language, I would like to see it more an improved current version. and there is also the maintenance fee, so you can receive a portion of the initial amount of the bounty over time. So if you improve what you already have, I suppose it's better. I know that this is less tokens, but I don't see the reason why we should have that in multiple language, unless you want to create that in a language that is compatible with a different type of user. Because for example, we have now a WordPress bot that is running via Bash script, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is one for Python. So these two may have different ways of using them. I could be more interested. I would be curious to see if there is something that can run at a higher level. So together with like Grafana or that level of integration. That would be definitely interesting.
Cool. So we don't have any questions right now.
So quick question to the attendees. Do you see the link that Anais posted in a chat, or it only went to us, to panelists?
Oh no! So all my messages went to panelists. Oh,
Okay.
okay. I didn't see that. Yeah, that was the case. All panelists and attendees. Okay, let me repost those. Here's the bounties. And then here is the route to mainnet. So, fixed. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Cool. Last question, I guess. Are there any plans about open API specifications?
I'm not the right person to answer, but I think that
Eugene, you're muted.
I'm not aware of what is Open API. So.
Can you maybe rephrase your question, or yeah? Are there any other questions? Any API specs documentation? You mean?
I think we have some resources regarding that. So it's not openly shared, but we have a link which is called Nomicon. Nomicon is where we write the specs of the protocol. It's not strictly related to the APIs, but it's related to the protocol in general. I wrote on Nomicon, for example, to specify the economic principles of the protocol when I work with Ilya. So the Nomicon is probably the closest thing to some API specs that you are asking for. I'm also aware.
Actually, API spec is not part of the protocol. So I mean, depending on which APIs you're talking about, but they're usually not part of the protocol. So.
I suppose that connected to that, we have also some specs about the APIs in general in the documentation, the RPC. And they're also, yes, they're also the information on the GitHub. The near API JS, for example, got some API documentation, but probably what he was asking is the Open API, which probably is some sort of a standard. Okay. I think that we can discuss a bounty for that.
Well, we do have like basic stuff. The problem is, I think we don't define the actual structure that it returns. So we define the request. Not sure we define the response in the docs. So the best thing for RPCs is here. But it looks like we do not provide the actual format of the response.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
the
that
source
is
of
still,
truth is,
yeah, it's still under development. Yeah, we're aware that it's a major problem, but it's not only for people developing on Near, it's also for people who are developing Near. It has been a major problem for a while, and we're just like finding workaround in here and there. But yeah, it is a problem that we're going to address after phase 1. Mainly that will make all the RPC response structured. Right now, they're arbitrary, and that will make it much easier for people to deal with response. For developers to deal with the RPC response, they'll pretty much know what type of response there are and what to expect, so on and so forth.
we also work in Rosetta RPC support, and here's a link for the issue. And that will standardize some RPCs that are common across different blockchains. So that should help, at least for common RPCs that you might need to use, not Near specific RPCs.
Awesome. So we would have 8 minutes left if there are any other questions. Otherwise, you can always ask in the chat. Stefano, any final words?
Well, yeah, I see that there are no questions. So I would say, oh, we have a question actually.
One more. Could the Rosetta Node API be used already?
I think it's almost ready. We haven't merged it yet, but hopefully,
so there's
maybe
PR.
maybe by the end of this week, or maybe in early next week. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
once it's merged, it will first go to like CAT. Then once it's released, it will be available. So it's not yet, first not yet merged, second not yet deployed to any network. So maybe like 1 week until it's done, and another week until it hits the Betanet or something like this.
Okay, last question by Henry. Will the build process Bowen uses be released for validators?
I'm not sure which build process this refers to. I mean, like validators, you already have their own pipelines. I don't know what. Well, I cannot see who are the participants here, but I'm pretty sure there are many professional people here who know this better than us. And it's also not that not necessarily a question of knowledge. Just sometimes also what existing system you're using. What your existing pipeline looks like, and so on and so forth. And like maybe you also want to integrate with some other system that you have. So I think there isn't a universal one for everyone. And also we will not be running validators on mainnet after phase 2 at least, or maybe even in phase 1. So yes, I mean I don't think what we have is like actually suitable for validators. It's actually not. I mean I would say it is not, but we don't actually have the proper protection in place for validators.
Okay, cool. Stefano, you want to wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. So thanks everyone for joining. It was super interesting. I'm really glad that you guys joined, and we were able to answer all your questions. But of course, there are other questions that probably you have. The tools that we use, Discord. We are pretty much active on Discord. HTTPS near.chat, and you can join the discussion on the conversation on Discord. We have 2 channels, Validators and Validators Lunch. On Validators, we discuss technical stuff. On the Validators Lunch, we can have some more broad type of discussion regarding being a validator on Near, and I'm spending time answering your questions there. We also use Discord for official announcement of new updates and important community-oriented messages. We got GitHub. So github.com/near-protocol/stakewars is our go-to place where with the challenges, how to get tokens, and where you open issues. So most of the day-by-day operations are happening on GitHub. I'm trying to keep it as updated as I can. You probably see that I have tens of commits every week to keep everything updated. I would say third item that I would like that is being used more by the community, Stack Overflow. We have the tag near protocol. I think it's near protocol and near core. I think, by the way, it's near protocol and near protocol dash validators. If you have questions that are not about issues, but is how I can do that, open Stack Overflow question, because it's even better than it is with the Stakewars and Discord, because we have the entire team, the entire technical team of Near who receives a notification, and the entire team is looking at it and is answering. So since the volume now of questions on Stack Overflow is not that big, you have a high probability to receive a high quality answer in a short span of time, which is even better probably from what you could get in the Validators Lounge. So use the tool because it's worth it. Last but not least, always feel free to reach out to me on Discord and also Telegram. I spend also a good portion of time answering all of you. Only this morning I have the equivalent of 70 messages here and there. So I try to answer all of you, and I spend a lot of time talking with you. So if you have any concern, any question regarding Stakewars, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to address any concern or issue that you're facing.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for hosting. Gonna end the call now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, bye.
Bye.